Number 9 in the 42 Ideas on Leadership comes to us from Meredith Belbin, and it's Belbin'S team roles. So, Meredith Belbin wrote this book initially when he was working at the Henley Management College, and it's based on the research that came out of that. And later, he wrote the book Management Teams, Why They Succeed or Fail, and we're looking at the second edition here, published in 2004. Initially, there were 8 team roles, and then he added a 9th one later on. The first element that came out through his research in the Henley Management School was the Apollo teams. What they were trying to do is they were trying to create the most effective and efficient teams. So what they did is they put together something that was called Apollo teams and compared them to other teams. The Apollo teams had the best achievers, the best performers in the company. What was surprising, however, was that these Apollo teams did not always, and generally actually did not, succeed as well as some of the other teams. The very fact that they had such high achievers often meant that they had a type of conflict that meant that the team could not work effectively or efficiently. And what they discovered was that the teams that worked best had a variety of roles that helped that team work at its optimal performance level. So these then led to the 9 basic team roles. As I said, initially 8 and then 9 later on. We're going to look at them here. These 9 roles, are divided here, and we'll look through them in a little bit more detail in a moment. First of all, we look at oriented roles that are connected with people. These 3 are resource investigators, team workers, and coordinators. The next 3 that we're going to look at are the thought roles. And the final 3 are the action-oriented roles. That one there in the middle in thought, the specialist, that was the one that was added later on. So let's start by looking at the first 3, specifically at resource investigator. The blue are the positive and the red are the negative elements of the resource investigator. So the resource investigator explores opportunities, they're inquisitive, they develop contacts with people outside the team or the organization. They're good at getting resources, they're very innovative people, they're outgoing, they're good at finding ideas, they're enthusiastic. These are all the positive elements. The negative elements of a resource investigator is that sometimes they forget to follow up on promises, maybe they lose interest in an activity, and occasionally they're over-optimistic. So that enthusiasm can sometimes go towards over-optimism. Second area here is the team worker. The team worker, they provide support to other people. They're very good at their internal negotiators in terms of they're good at getting people to work together on the team. They're good listeners, they're flexible, they're diplomatic, they're popular within the team. They're perceptive when it comes to other people's problems. They're good at creating team cohesion. That's why we call them the glue that holds the team together. Negative elements of the team worker role is that sometimes they can be indecisive or that they have uncommitted positions, that they prefer not to commit to one position or another, and they avoid confrontation. Third role here is the coordinator. The coordinator, they focus on objectives. They guide the team. These are the typical team leaders. They clarify goals. They get resources. They listen to the different people on the team. They recognize talent and they're able to develop the talent. They delegate tasks to different members on the team, and generally they're good-natured. The dangers or the negative side of a coordinator is that they might delegate everything and that sometimes they can be manipulative. Now, let's look at the next 3. The creative, these are the thought roles, the thought-oriented roles. Well, the plant, they're creative. They're also the innovators on the team. They've got great novel ideas, and very often they're working on their own, developing these ideas, and they love praise from the other team members. The negative side is that they can be sensitive to criticism of their ideas. They can have fantastic ideas that are actually impractical when it comes to putting them into operation, and sometimes they ignore the constraints or the limits on their great ideas. The monitor-evaluator, they're good at analysing and evaluating. They're quite shrewd people. They're very objective. They're critical thinkers. They're strategic thinkers. They're quite outgoing. They're good at looking at the pros and cons of the ideas. So maybe bringing that plant down to earth. The negative element of a monitor evaluator is that they can be detached and they might not be very good at motivating their team, and they're reactive as opposed to proactive team members. The specialist, well, they have specialized knowledge, as the name indicates. They're experts in one specific area and they're committed fully to that area and to the team itself. The problem with being a specialist in the team is that their contributions are limited because they don't know about other areas, and sometimes they get bogged down and preoccupied with technicalities. This brings us to the action roles. So the shaper, well, they challenge the team to improve. They're dynamic, they see obstacles as challenges. They're extroverted, they provide drive, they're courageous, they put pressure on other people to maintain focus and to maintain motivation. So they'll be quite pushy. And this leads us to the negative idea that sometimes that pushiness can offend others, sometimes they're argumentative or combative, and they may become aggressive. So that's when the negative elements of a shaper comes into play. The implementer, they get things done. They like actions and plans, they're practical, they can be conservative and disciplined, but they're very efficient, organized and reliable, and they love to plan. The negative side of an implementer is that they can be inflexible, they can be resistant to change, and sometimes they keep plans even when those plans should change and adapt to the reality on the ground. The last role here, especially in the action group, is a completer finisher. They make sure that projects are completed. They can be perfectionists. They're focused on deadlines. They're scrutinizing the final results. They're polishing the final project. They're looking at the detail, and they're very focused on avoiding errors. The problem with a completer finisher, especially for the completer finisher, is that they can get very anxious. They're perfectionists, and they can be very slow to delegate. These are the 9 Belbin roles. The resource investigator, we'll call them a connector. The team worker, we'll call them the team glue. The coordinator, another word for calling them might be the team leader. When we're looking at the thought roles, the thought-oriented roles, we would call the plant the creative. The monitor evaluator will be analytical. The specialist is an expert. And then we look at the action-oriented roles. Well, the shaper is a driver, pushing everybody to move on and to continue and to get things done. The implementer is focused on actions and plans, and the completer finisher is a perfectionist. These are the 9 Belbin roles. And if you want more information on these, you can buy the book, of course, or you can go to www.belbin.com. So that is number 9 in the 42 Ideas on Leadership, comes to us from Meredith Belbin and his book Management Teams, Why They Succeed or Fail. And we've been looking at the second edition, published in 2004.